Where did you go to high school?
I went to school at Valmead Elementary and went to high school at Happy Valley High School. They didn't have a city school and a county school like they have this day and time.
Did you ever play basketball?
Very little,
But you were on the team, and
yes.
you would travel and you would play your rival.
Yeah, we'd always play Oak Hill. And just about every game that we played Oak Hill, we'd have a fight.
Yeah.
And
What would happen the next day?
well, the next day, the principal one time expelled all of us that got to fighting. She expelled us for the next day. We thought we was gone. And he come around that night and told us all if we could behave and quit fighting, we'd
And
put us back on the roster.
did you get to ride in his car?
Yeah, he drove a big old Packard. His brother straight had sold Packard, had the dealership, and
What year was the Packard?
it was in late 40s, I guess, something like that.
So it was a new car?
Yeah, and he'd always got a demonstrator from his brother that run that Packard place every year.
And you went to Blair's Fork Baptist Church?
Yes,
Tell us something you remember about Blair's Fork.
well, I know when we went to church, we sat on the back row, all the young people, because we didn't have nowhere to go. You get together like this day and time, you know. And we'd sit on the back row, and we had to behave, though. Our mamas and daddies had laid on us with a hickory if we didn't. And I know one time, when I was janitor out there, they'd always pick somebody to get build a fire early, and build a fire in the classrooms. He'd keep us.
What kind of
Then-
stove?
There's an old tin stove out of metal, not too big, but it was.
What did you do after World War II?
World War II,
You remember going to the church?
yeah, going to church and ring the bell. Everybody rang the bell, and all the members come in from everywhere. They had more people there when the war was over than they have on Sunday or anything.
Did you ever have big picnics at the church?
Yes, we always had a picnic once a year. And they really had this food to eat.
What was the big thing in Lenore? What was the big business in Lenore back when you were growing up?
Furniture.
Did you ever work in furniture?
Yes, I worked in the furniture while I was in high school, worked then and worked out of high school.
You worked your whole life in furniture, didn't you?
Yes, I worked 40 years for Broad Hills.
Yeah. Oh, tell us about the Blair's Fork Church when they had a revival preacher and he got parched up at the pulpit and your mama sent you over to get water.
Yes, back then you didn't have running water and all, and we was close to Swale. Our house was right next to the church, and she sent me out to get some water for the preacher to drink. He was losing his breath, and I went and I got to. She said, "Now hurry back, don't run in a hurry." And back then it was cold, and when it's cold, she'd put hot water bottles, fruit jars, and the bed first to put her feet on, fill it up with hot water. And that's what we kept her feet warm. And she sent me after them hot water bottles. I didn't take time to pump a new bottle. I took off with that and give that one to that preacher. Give it to her, and she gave it to the preacher.
And then I bet she about fainted when she realized that everybody was drinking toe water.
Well, I didn't tell her for a long time till she started emptying that water on Monday, out of that water, and she thought it looked kind of funny, clear and all. And there's that toe water where they had their feet against it. And some of them evidently didn't clean their feet good before they put their Sunday golden shoes on.
Well, what kind of entertainment did you have? Any kind of entertainment? Did they have radio or TV back then?
Back then they had never, for a long time, all the thing we had was a radio, and then TV come out, and we was about the only one had one, and we'd look on, all the neighbors would come on the night Amos and Andy was on. They'd come watch Amos and Andy with us.
Yeah. And didn't you have uncle, what was his name, that had a monkey that was on the Ed Sullivan Show?
Oh yeah, Ralph was the first cousin of mine, and he's gone from here a long time, and he wrote his parents that he's gonna come home and bring his wife. He wasn't married when he left. Up and he had this monkey and done this skating act. And that monkey, he'd bring that monkey and he'd skate with him, And he'd put that monkey in a bed and cover it up, and he'd sleep all night.
So he didn't get married at all.
He got married later years. We didn't keep up with him too often.
But then he was just joking. He was bringing home his wife, and he brought home that monkey.
Brought that monkey and his wife too. He didn't know what to. I remember some of them old people says, "Which one did he marry, the monkey or that lady with him?"
Oh boy. Do you remember what kind of movies that you would go see?
Well, about the only thing he had was westerns. We'd always watch him, and Amos and Andrew, they'd come on, I believe it was Tuesday night. We'd always build a fire. We had a big old stove in the den, and fire that stove up, and we'd watch it. Amos and Andy.
Well, tell us about your grandpa Ralph and the Depression. Did he lose all his money, or did he?
Yeah. During the Depression, they said the reason, we never did know, but he said the reason he's so tight, that he had lost all his money during the Depression. So he would, his children get on to him about being so tight. He said, well, he wasn't going to lose no money like he did. Poor old grandma, she had to suffer with a stroke when she died. They didn't have it. Back then, you had to, wasn't no ambulance come get you and take you out. You'd come around to the houses, the doctor would.
Well, what was the name of the grandma that had the stroke?
That was Grandma Tuttle. Effie was her name.
What was her middle name?
I don't know exactly.
Does it ring a bell, Effie Neal?
Yes, I guess it was Effie Neal.
I was named after her, and that's what Mama said, that she named me after her maiden name, and that she had a stroke, and then later in life I had a stroke, isn't that something?
Yeah.
But
back then you didn't. Doctor come out to the house. Wasn't nothing like it is now. Take them to the hospital.
Yeah. So, when you would, how would you make money? Would you do any certain type of work?
Well, in the summertime, I'd get out and mow yards and do stuff like that, split wood for people.
And when you went into town, what would you buy?
Well, back then, you had to walk to town most of the time, because if the bus just run every 4 hours, and you could run from where we lived out to town for about 4 cents, and we would go, we'd be all hot. We'd always go to the Smithy's department store. They had the best hamburger in town. It's a lot better than you can buy now. And we would go, I'd go get a hamburger, and we'd eat that hamburger and then go to the movie. And we'd sit in that movie, both shows, the late show and the early show, because we didn't have enough money to go one way. And that's the way we got our entertainment.
Big.
Oh yeah.
Get it.
Your grandpa was named Ralph, and you told me one time that he made some money by helping people kill their pigs.
Yes, he killed hogs for people when it come right sick cold enough, where the meat wouldn't spoil. And he'd get somebody to help him, and he had him 2 barrels, and he'd eat that hot water, go and scrape them hogs down, shoot them, and scrape the hide off of them, and cut them up for them.
Did he ever have a pig that he didn't kill?
Yeah, he had one he called Hindenburg. I think went back to some of the politicians, one of them was running for president or something, was Hindenburg or something like that. I don't remember exactly. But that thing would follow him just like a dog would following a cat. He wouldn't let nobody kill that one.
Yeah. Now, I've heard that it was called Vandenberg, but it could be called Hindenburg, because that's about the time that the Hindenburg exploded. So I don't know what the real name was, but...
I don't either. You can't find it in the dictionary, so I guess Hindenburg would have to be.
Yeah.
I think it's a politician now. He used to be Hindenburg or something like that.
Now, what was your favorite memory? How did you meet your wife?
Back then, I'd been driving along, working along, and I had a date with her, and they just built up from where Smith Crossroads is now up on built a drive-in theater, and we thought that's something, go get a cone ice cream or something. And she's like me, she come up the hard way, and I said, go ahead, and we was ordering what we wanted, and she said she'd eat a cone ice cream. I said, go ahead and get you a banana split. She thought back then that it was gonna split the banana in two.
To save money?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say. Yeah, we didn't have nothing to save.
Did she say something like, well, we'll just order one because we can split it?
Yeah.
Well, didn't you meet her when she was chasing the pig?
Yeah, that's where I met her. Back then, the highway was different. They changed it now, and I heard this tractor and trailer just blowing, where the horn is. Look, and she was running this pig through her front yard and up the side of the road, trying to catch it. It got out. And she finally ran it down and caught it.
And that's how you met her?
Yeah.
What did you say to her?
I asked her if she wanted to help her catch that pig, but we headed it off.
Yeah. And little did you know you'd have 3 little piglets later.
No, but I was glad they didn't have no trouble, so.
When you had a family, what was your best memories of having a family?
Well, my best memories was we'd all get together, you know, back the time we'd always go get groceries or something of the evening, you know, about dark. Come home, everybody'd be hungry, and Mama would had grapevines, and she'd put up a lot of grape juice, and we'd put that grape juice, she'd put it somewhere and make a drink, and we'd have grape juice and stuff like that.
Just good family times.
Yeah, peanut butters and sandwiches. It's different from what it is now.
What would you get for Christmas?
Well, for Christmas, I wouldn't get but one thing, 'cause that was during the Depression, and you just people didn't have the money to spend, you know. And
Do you remember one present you got when you were a child?
I got a football. I got it, but I slipped and found where it's at and got to kicking the thing, and it busted. And I kept it hid for a long time before they ever caught up with me. But I sure got a whooping.
I never knew that story. What's a funny story you remember about your wife?
Why? Oh, I told everybody we'd go somewhere, you know, they'd be telling tales, and I'd have to tell about her ordering the banana split. Oh, she'd give me a hard time when we got home.
How long were you married? 65 years, wasn't it?
Yeah, 65 years.